Hi, it's Colleen Lowe with the Born to Be Brave podcast and YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining us today. I am so excited for you to learn from and for me to learn from our guest today. It's Ian Mannarino. Do you go by Dr. Ian, probably?
You could just call me Ian.
Okay, yeah, Dr. Ian. I just had that realization. Let me tell you a bit about his background so you can know what his credentials are. He graduated with a BS in biological science. You went to UCI, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
then an MD, MBA, a dual degree program from UCI. And then you trained as a clinical anesthesiologist until 2019. And then he switched gears to focus on medical education and health and wellness coaching. In 2021, he completed the Integrative Health and Wellness certification with the Arizona University. And he now uses those skills obtained from this program and his medical background to work one-on-one with clients like you and me to promote wellness. You can find him on Instagram on LiveLifeMD or check out his blog at thelivelifemd.com. And in his free time, Ian loves to explore the great outdoors, taking pleasure in activities such as traveling, hiking, and backpacking. So Ian, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, honestly.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. I want to talk to people. It's Born to Be Brave is the name of the podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tell me, I know that our health is so important. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. Tell me about, I understand you went to medical school and anesthesiology, right? And then you, at some point, left. You were brave. You decided maybe it wasn't for you.
That's right.
And you left, and then you started on a new trajectory and a new life path. And so can you kind of share with our audience what happened? What made you get into medicine? What happened? And then why did you leave?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Great way to kick this off, too. And, again, thank you so much for having me here.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I love getting to know people, and I'm happy to share my story, too, which is fantastic.
I think the stories are what connect us and heal us and
absolutely
inspire us. So tell us what happened.
Yeah, so I went to UC Irvine for my bachelor degree in biological science. And maintained a UC Irvine connection for my medical degree as well. When I got into the medical system, I think what drew me there initially, what really pulled me to medicine, was an inherent desire to really help people, really connect with people. And
that's why I went to medical school in the first place, so you could help people?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I've always wanted to help people when I was younger. Always felt like I was, the friend that would be there for people and listen to their, whatever issues they might be having at the time. And it seemed like, and I loved science. So it seemed like a very easy transition to, I say easy, but try to go to medical school. It seemed like the right call.
The right path calling. For you.
Yeah,
it's not easy to get in medical school. I didn't get in. I didn't apply.
So
that's not easy, but easy because you were smart and you were good at math and science and you had the heart for wanting to help people.
Well, I think it was more so an easy decision for me because it just seemed like, if I am a doctor, I can actually influence and help people out with their health. It's one of, like you said earlier, one of the most valuable things that we have.
Is our health.
Yes, if not the most valuable thing that we have.
You can't, if you don't have health, you can't buy it.
Right, absolutely. And so, getting into medical school, I met so many wonderful doctors, nurses, people who really want to save the world and really want to help. And, the studying for medical school, the human body fascinated me. As I got further into the clinical experience, in my third year especially, that's really when we start clinical rotations in the hospital, OBGYN, surgery, all sorts of different aspects of medicine or specialties of medicine. And I think what pulled me towards anesthesiology was a desire to be a part of the system and also have quality of life. So to be honest, I think I started to lose what my initial drive was to go into medicine. Clinical medicine can be very tough, and I absolutely respect anybody who goes into the field of medicine, and practices, takes care of patients. I mean, you see general practitioners seeing patients every 30 minutes, one after the next. And that can be very taxing on the physician. And I guess the point I'm trying to make, as I was going along in the medical system, I found it very taxing to care for people. It became more challenging, because here people are not on their best day. You're trying to help cure a physical ailment, or at least improve their life in some way and manage their physical ailment. And I think you need an entire support system. I think I started to realize you need people in your life that want to help you and see you succeed. And I think that's especially the case for patients. Somebody there with them to help support them emotionally. And I started to realize that is kind of more my thing. Like as an anesthesiologist, I'm barely in contact with the patient at all. I see them in the morning, set them up for their surgery, and off they go to their surgery. And I care for them while they're asleep, all throughout the surgery, make sure everything goes really smoothly. But I started to, I think, yearn for more.
You had a yearning for more?
Yeah, I think I had a yearning for more of a connection with people, and help guide them into, through transitions in their life, as well as into new parts of their life, and uncover old trauma in a way, be able to uncover that and help them succeed. Take that trauma and use it for their good, for their emotional good, for their spiritual good, for their well-being in general.
Can you give me an example of what you're talking about, so we know what we're all talking about here? What's an example of something like that?
Right. So what I do in one-to-one health coaching especially is work with somebody on some aspect of their health. And there's several different angles you can kind of approach, their health at. Movement, physical exercise, nutrition, their sleep, how well is their sleep, their mind function, right? They're having mindfulness, really approaching their life with mindfulness. Spiritual aspect of everybody, which to me is their values, what they value, how they define themselves as a person, and how they take that to their living experience. And so what I like to do is work with people on some aspect of their health that they feel they need to grow in. And, everybody has something they feel that they could do better in, right?
Yeah, all of us.
Even if you're working out like 5 days a week, and you might be thinking, I should be doing 7, or gosh, I should be doing 3 hours instead of 1 hour. Like if people, that's not me. Like I could stand to use a little bit more exercise myself, but that's the whole point. We all have kind of these internal monologues, these ideas that we have, this identity that we've created, and being able to acknowledge where we're at in our lives, and taking that to the next level. That's where I like to come in. I think I like to help people with that.
So you like to bridge the gap from where people are to where they want to go.
Exactly.
And then how do people do that, though? Like, just like give an example, like a tip. Let's say somebody here listening is thinking, oh, I would like to work with Ian. Give me an example of what they could expect to happen if they decided to hire you as their wellness coach.
Well, first of all, I think what a lot of people tend to struggle with is accountability. Having somebody there that can check up on them, be like, are you hitting your target? why are we not hitting our target? Let's work on it together in a very non-judgmental format, where you can just openly communicate. And, what I usually do in those situations, especially the first few sessions, is actively listening, just listening to what the person has to say, asking engaging questions, some evocative questions here and there, but also understanding where they are at emotionally, and just in every aspect of life, like I said, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, all of that plays in and hopefully ties together.
Yeah, do you feel like all those areas, like the person is more than just going to the doctor, treating a symptom, and then you see them for, what, 10, 15, 20 minutes max, they're gone, and then that's it. And then they still have the same problem, but now they're on medication.
Right. And I think that is probably my biggest gripe with the medical system. I mean, it's set up that way because there are so few physicians, there are so few caretakers, and they have to be streamlined through the process. But I think more and more, especially in our world as we hopefully transition to a post-COVID world, I think through COVID, people have started to recognize wellness is a very important aspect. Holistic health, is paramount to each individual's growth, but also it's paramount to their health, right?
Yeah.
Not to be kind of cyclical, but yeah.
Yeah, it's crucial, right?
Yeah. Everybody has these aspects of themselves, and I think physicians, they are equipped to deal with the spiritual side of people. They're the mindful side of people. It's focused on disease, right?
Yeah, dis-ease, disease.
Right.
Not wellness.
Right. And if I may, there's an interesting change in medicine, I think somewhere around the 30s and 40s. There's this one physician named Hans Selye. Have you ever heard of Hans Selye?
I have.
There you go. He
The cadavers.
he did some strange things.
Yeah, but I love this story.
Yes,
I don't know what story you're going to share.
What he pioneered was an understanding of stress and the stress response and how it affects people. And he took that into his career and started to notice that, I think the statistics is somewhere around 70% of people who have physical ailments could also be diagnosed with Selye syndrome, which is basically just an overwhelming stress response to what is going on in your life and how you see yourself with your disease. It's and that kind of fell off of out of the view of medicine.
In the 30s?
Somewhere around, I think, probably the 50s and 60s, it started to slide away as we started to get more medicine focused on pharmacology, right? Treatment with medications, which is, medical miracle. Absolutely amazing what we've done with pharmacology and the things that we can do to treat people, delving into that science. But there's more than pharmacology to every person. There's more to them than just, basic physiology. We have a central nervous system that's deeply connected to our physical body, and it's the interface of our mind with our physical body. And it's neglected in medicine, unfortunately. And that's okay. I think psychologists are going to step up to the plate and kind of take us into the next era of wellness and holistic medicine.
What do you wish our viewers and our listeners could know about what you know about the whole body and about integrative medicine? What do you wish that they knew?
Oh, it's an extremely complex question, too. What I see a lot of people struggling with is their thoughts and their thought patterns. And people tend to cycle through a lot of the same patterns over and over again. And they might even acknowledge it and recognize it. But breaking out of those patterns can be so difficult. And what I think I would emphasize for people in those cases is just you need to have a lot of patience with yourself. You need to approach it in a very non-judgmental way. And, it's okay to lean on other people. I think a lot of, especially men, feel that they have to hold it all within themselves.
It's very unhealthy.
It is. It definitely can, make people sick.
Very sick. I think it's interesting that I felt to ask you that question. My biggest aha in my life was learning that I'm in control of my thoughts, not that my thoughts are in control of me. And that was a huge light bulb moment for me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate every aspect of my life, and I'm complaining, I'm rehearsing all the weird crap in my life that ever happened, beating myself up over and over again.
Yeah.
And
it's easy to do.
Right? And I think so many of us do it, and we don't celebrate all our wins and celebrate how awesome we are and give ourselves grace. And it was a huge aha for me when I realized I'm in charge of my thoughts, not the other way around. And I didn't even think about that. You're right. Men probably tend to really keep it all in, because I have girlfriends and people I would all complain to them, which was unhealthy, right? And I've quit doing that for the most part. Right?
It's okay if you do it a little bit, right?
Once in a while.
Yeah.
But I believe we're all magnets, so we're all attracting how we're being. And so I'm really conscientious of my energy and how I'm being. Because if you spend a lot of time complaining, then you're just attracting more of that into your life.
Right.
And what tips do you have for someone who does have their thoughts are controlling them, and they keep replaying these old movies and negative scenarios in their head? What tip do you have for them to break the cycle, or at least start working on it and chipping away at it? Do you have any tips for us?
Yeah, so I think the a really big tip I would give is just to trust the process, right? It's not always going to be easy. In fact, a lot of the time it's going to be very difficult. You'll have to face down a lot of difficulties in your life, emotional traumas, to really heal from them. And so it takes time. And I think by taking that first step, acknowledging that you want to change, I think that's the biggest step you can take. And then from there, taking each step afterwards, the next step and the next step. That's the important thing, to keep that in mind, that you are moving forward. Progress is not always smooth. It's not just, straight, linear, like you're going up. There's a lot of this. There's a lot of up and down along the way. And even in my own journey, I've encountered that. I mean,
share time.
Leaving.
Yeah. Tell me, share, what was it like? Like, literally, like, we've all been to the doctor. And it's very competitive to get into medical school. It's very difficult to get in. And it's so funny, I didn't even think about it, but our son started out at UCI hospital when he had cancer. We were at UCI.
Wow.
And then we transferred to Chalk, even though he was an adult. Chalk wasn't even on our list.
What year?
I think you were there, maybe.
I might have been, yeah.
I literally was just thinking, Carter was there in 17, right? 2017?
Oh, I would have just missed him.
Just missed him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did my intern year 2015 and 2016. So gosh, I just missed him.
You just missed him. But all those kids, I call them kids because I'm an older person, right? But all those kids would come with the doctors. They're doctors too, right? But the third years and the fourth years.
Oh, they're so young.
Yeah, they're kids.
We're so young, right?
Yeah, and they would, every day, because we lived at the hospital, obviously. Yeah. And it's a huge commitment to become a doctor, because you sacrifice your life, your time, your energy, because rotations, you're there around the clock, basically. They never left. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So you sacrificed everything. You're one of the select few who gets into medical school, because it's a huge rejection rate for people who apply.
Yeah, I think the success matriculation rate getting into medical school is like 1 to 2%.
Yeah,
like 1.6.
That's crazy, right?
It's probably even harder now.
Yeah. So you did the dream. Like, this is your ultimate dream. You're going to help everyone. You get into medical school. You finish medical school. You're now in anesthesiology school, right? And you realize, holy crap. This isn't what I want to do with my life, right?
Yeah. And
what do you do about it? So let's hear. And then how did you feel about it? How did you process it? And are you glad you did that?
Yeah. Well, so I think when I first, the processing took such a long time, right? It wasn't just a month, it was years, excuse me, of processing after. Because when I was going through it, all I thought that I needed to do was just keep pushing, get through. And I felt so exhausted and so burnt out. And, some personal things were going on in my life. I lost my, excuse me, then I think I had known this person for 10 years at the time. My college girlfriend, we ended up splitting up, and we had such a long relationship. And so that happened in residency, and that, I think, hit me the hardest. And I started to second guess and question, like, what am I really here for? Why am I in medicine? What is the purpose? What is my purpose? And I started to feel extremely fatigued, so burnt out, so exhausted all of the time. And the directors took note of that. They noticed that I was burnt out. And they told me, oh, well, you probably just need to work harder. You can do this, right? But really not having that social support that I needed. And so it got to a point where it was like, well, you have to, we don't think this is the right fit for you anymore. And a part of me was thinking, gosh, if you're thinking that, then like what, maybe you're right. Like, what am I doing? I lost all confidence in myself. It was all gone. And it took me, within that year afterwards, to really start to recover a little bit. I think what really pulled me out of that experience in 2019 and 2020 was having family support, and looking inside of myself and realizing this is not sustainable. You can do something much more in your life with the world. You can do much more with other people than what a simple physician does. And so while I had the opportunity to, get back into the system, I took the time to really ask those difficult questions of myself. Like, what am I really wanting out of life? What do I really value? What do I love? And how can I make that a part of my life?
Can you say those questions again? Those are my favorite questions. All our answers are inside of us, Ian. They're all inside of us. We just have to ask these questions. Start asking yourself these questions. So what were they again? What questions did you ask yourself?
I'll paraphrase, but like what do I love?
What do I love?
What makes life purposeful for me? What brings me joy? Where do I see myself in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 5 years, 10 years? And those are such critical questions to raise. Otherwise, you will. Now, for me, honestly, I felt like I did stagnate for a while. I was sitting there not feeling like I was growing. And it's easy to slip into that. And I think once you ask yourself those powerful questions, and you will know the questions, you spend enough time listening to yourself, to your mind, you will know the questions to ask. And those are a few good ones to start with, too. And those are usually ones that I try to start with in my coaching with other people.
Yeah, because what we do is we become numb.
Yeah.
There's societal expectations, family expectations. I'm already this far into it. I've already done this much.
Yeah.
And it's courageous that you left and didn't go back and finish your anesthesiology. Isn't that what happened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that so many of us, I always say that in between, there's in the alphabet A, B, C, D, and B is birth and D is death, and in the middle is C, and that's where we choose how we live our life. And I think a lot of us are not living the lives that we were meant to live.
Yeah, that's beautiful. C, choose. Absolutely. We get to choose what life we live.
Yeah, we get to choose. And we can make adjustments and pivot. Like you realized quite a ways down a road, the path that you were on, the trajectory was going to not be fulfilling and joyful for you.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, the amount of self-deprecation through that process too. Am I good enough? Maybe I'm not good enough. Like that's hard to struggle through, and a lot of people struggle through that. But you start shifting your mind and noticing some positive things here and there. Well, I got out of bed today and sat and did an hour of work, or 10 minutes. I did push-ups on the floor, or even just getting out of bed. For some people, you're taking those steps towards achieving something greater in your life. Doesn't matter how small you start. In fact, that's where you start.
Small.
You can't, you can have this vision of your life and how you would want it to be, but you have to put a lot of work in to getting there, right? Small steps at a time. But the focus is on the little inches along the way. I used to say to myself when I was going through medical school, trying to learn all this information, inch by inch, life is a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard.
Ooh, I love that. Inch by inch, life is a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. Ooh, that's so good. It's so funny. I read Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a book I read quite a while ago, but it made me realize he talks about getting 1% better every day. And when we focus on too much of the big picture, then we get overwhelmed and then we don't take any action and then we stop moving.
Right.
Inch by inch. And that's how you got through medical school? Inch by inch, it's a cinch?
Yeah. I was very fortunate. I think I had a huge, support structure. I had good friends that I was able to make in medical school. And so having that support helped me feel confident. But I think even without that support, you can still find confidence within yourself. When I felt like I lost the support of my medical community, leaving medicine entirely, that was, I felt like I lost everybody and everything that I had. And, you can rebuild some of that support, and you can also just have confidence in yourself. Like, keep working at that confidence, doing these small things. Interesting, in health coaching, see if I can remember our SMART goals, but there's these different goals of goal setting, I should say. You start out small, right? Have things be measurable so that you can say, oh yeah, I went 10 yards, or I walked 1 mile. Action specific, so having to do with specific actions. Making realistic goals. So if you're wanting to run a marathon, you're like, I'm gonna go run 20 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the best place to start.
No.
Just going, walking down your park might even be the first start towards that direction. And then I think the last one is timing. So timing is having, knowing the time when you're going to do these things. Like, I'm going to get up, go out at 9 a.m. and do this. But then also having, I need to put on my hat, I need to make my bed, I make myself coffee, having these small things along the way. And knowing how frequently you're going to do it too. That's also a part of timing. So, but honestly, I think the biggest thing you can do is just start small. Start small and start positive and start with a direction in mind.
Yeah, I think it really makes a difference, right? And to know there's seasons in life, like you're no longer in that season that we're, things can change, right? And navigating change can be overwhelming sometimes. And when you focus on the small things. I have another question for you. What advice would you give someone who's thinking about going to medical school?
What advice would I give? That's a great question. Well, I would assume at first you've kind of looked into medical school, have an idea what medicine is about. You've engaged in your hospital system or an emergency department or a clinic to see how the doctors work, shadowing physicians, shadowing nurses, kind of being around them. But I think my greatest advice, if you are applying for medical school, believe in yourself. Be patient with the process. you're dedicating your life to medicine. You're dedicating your life to the knowledge and pursuit of healing. And remember, first, do no harm. And if ever you feel like you're in some way not able to, if maybe the system is set up in a way where you feel like you can't do that, voice your concerns, voice your opinion, be honest, be truthful, but keep going and form, a good social network, and I think you'll do just fine.
That's
You'll
good
do just
advice.
fine.
And then what advice is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. You can do anything if you set your mind to it. It's not really a piece of advice, but kind of a quote, I guess.
It's advice.
Yeah.
It's a quote. It's both.
Yeah.
Isn't it true?
It's
We first have to
absolutely true.
conceive it, right? You have to believe it before it can ever happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once you believe it, if you set your mind to that, no matter how long it takes, you just keep going. Fall down, get back up. Winston Churchill has an amazing quote that really pulled me out of darkness. If failure is not final. It's something like failure is not final, success is not the end.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You'll have both. But it's the will to get up again that counts. I'm totally butchering that
Yeah,
quote.
we'll look it up and put it in the show notes.
Yeah. But
It's the will.
Yep. Getting
Over and
up
over.
again when you get knocked down, small or large failures, that's really what counts. And that's really what's going to keep you moving forward, right?
Yeah.
Because we all fail. We all succeed too. We have that interspersed throughout our life. And we can't focus on just one failure. No matter how big, you can still get past that. Whatever it might not even be a failure. It might just be something in your life where you don't feel like, you did your best. You don't see it as a failure, but you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't even try this anymore. But it's important to get back up.
You have to get back up. And also for me, I like to fail. If you're not failing fast and forward, then you're not moving towards your goals fast enough for me. I like to fail my face off, as my coach Maya says. And I used to think failure, because we're all taught in school that failure's bad, right? You don't want to get that F on your paper or your test, right? But really failure, the way people look at failure is we have to reframe it, because failure is part of life, and I call them opportunities to grow and learn. You've just learned how not to do something a certain way, right? Or you got to pivot and change. You're getting feedback and information.
Yes, absolutely. And you do pivot, right?
Yeah, you just pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that let's say you lose everything. I mean, we've lost everything before, my husband and I, then you can rebuild it and grow and learn from it. And I can guarantee right now I would never be in that position again. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
I'm a completely different person. Mm-hmm. And if I was ever in that position again, I can still rebuild and regrow again. Because I can't guarantee I'd never be in that position, because anything can happen to anyone. But I just think that we just have to keep moving.
Yeah, you just have to keep growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having that growth mindset. And that's exactly what you're talking about, this growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. I just read an amazing book called The Art of Learning. It was by a chess master who turned to, I think it was Tai Chi.
Oh, wow.
And he put his all in both of those careers. And what he learned from this art of learn how to learn, is that you do just keep getting back up, right? The failures, you don't see them as failures. You think, oh, okay, well, I did that wrong. I won't make that mistake, as severely next time. I can, try to do these things. Will this work? Or will this work? It's exploration. You explore what is going to bring you that success. And you need to have the failures along the way to know what's going to, you need to have the light with the dark. You need to have the success with the failures.
Yeah, you don't know. If you don't have opposition and things, you don't know. You don't know joy if you haven't had, heartache.
Right.
You
How
don't
can
know.
you really know?
You don't know because there's nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that book sounds interesting. That's one of my other questions. Do you have a favorite book that's impacted your life?
Ooh. Well, so the one that I really, so there's two.
There's
Can
two.
I take
Yeah,
two?
we want two.
Okay,
We'll
perfect.
take them.
I think one of them is kind of going in conjunction with what we're talking about, the growth mindset. And that's the name of the book, The Growth Mindset. It's by Carol Dweck. She is a psychologist who has tried to understand growing and what it takes to learn all throughout her life. And she has amazing things to say about the growth mindset and how you can maintain that. It's all mentality. And I think the other book for me was Authentic Happiness by Martin Seligman.
Ooh.
He really breaks down the components of happiness. So he did something similar. He studied happiness his entire life. What makes people happy? Like, what are the pleasurable activities? But what really means, brings meaning and brings joy in people's lives. I think that is what really pulled me out of some dark places, that book especially.
Okay, I'm going to have to read both of them. I have not read either one of those books, so thank you for those recommendations.
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't that fun? And then another question I love to ask people is, what is something that I should have asked you that I haven't asked you yet that you would love to share with our listeners and our viewers?
Gosh, that is such a good question. Places I traveled, sure, we'll talk about that.
Okay, yeah. Travel's fun.
And where I want to travel.
Where's
Yeah,
your
let's talk
favorite
about
place
that.
you've been?
Favorite place I've been is probably Bali. I think that was one of my favorite places.
Balding? Where is that?
Bali, the island.
Oh, Bali, Bali.
Yeah, Indonesia.
Yeah. Ooh, is
Oh
that
my
really
gosh.
fun?
Oh, it's so beautiful over there too, and the cultural experience is just phenomenal. People over there just have a different perspective of life, and they bring joy to even difficult situations. So that was a beautiful experience for me.
Okay, I've not been there, and I'll add that to my list because it's not even on my list. Bali, and then where would you love to go?
Oh, I think New Zealand might be or Japan, one of those two.
I want to go to both of those too.
Yeah.
I want to see the cherry blossoms
Gosh, me
in
too.
Japan sometime.
See
We
some
have-
of the temples.
Yeah, one of our clients goes every year, and it's like, oh my gosh.
I'm so jealous. Oh.
I know, right? Isn't that funny? And then New Zealand, what would you like to see there?
Ooh, so the Great Barrier Reef is nearby, and I'm an ultra nerd, so I love Lord of the Rings, and they filmed all of it over there. And I love backpacking, so I would love to just backpack through New Zealand. I think that's my biggest thing.
I want to go to the caves too. There's caves with the eels that light up. Have you heard of that?
I have, yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
There's so much to see out there.
Yeah, travel's great. What's your favorite part about traveling?
Ooh, my favorite part about traveling is, I think once you get to the place, once you're kind of situated, just that moment being like, I'm in an entirely new place with entirely new people, an entirely new culture, and I get to be a part of that just for a brief moment in time. I think immersing myself in that experience and not only seeing sights, but also meeting people. I think that's my favorite part.
I love it. Yeah, it is. And it's amazing how we're all connected, and yet regionally we're all so different, but we have so many things in common too.
So many. We're more in common than we are dissimilar.
Yeah, that is so true. When our son had cancer, the people in the room next door to us when we first started were from Korea, and the grandparents were there with the little girl all the time, and they didn't speak English, and we didn't speak Korean, and we communicated because we have
Hand
the same
motions
love,
and- yeah, and-
prayer, hope, just that connection, right? Being there together with a similar experience,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It really was an eye-opening experience for me that we didn't speak, neither one of us spoke the other one's language,
Yeah.
but we were there for each other. And that really opened my eyes to like, wow, we're so similar, right?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Human nature at its core with, love specifically, I think. One of the most wonderful feelings in the world.
Yeah.
And you can share that with anybody that you run into.
It transcends everything.
It does. Language transcends language.
Language. Yeah. Yeah.
All barriers.
Yeah, I was just looking at pictures, and there's pictures of us together when Carter was going to have surgery, and she was there hugging us and saying goodbye. And I just thought, isn't that the coolest thing that I have no idea. I don't even know her name. She doesn't know my name, but I love her.
You guys had an experience together. You shared that love. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, that's really a good thing to remember. We're all connected, right? And love is so important, and we all have hopes and dreams, and we're all just real people.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have, hopes. We have successes. We have failures. We all have a crooked path through life. It's not always straight. Maybe for some people it's straight, but
I don't think anyone escapes the crookedness of life.
yeah, the human condition, right?
Yeah, I used to think other people, did, and I thought that my life was the only one that was screwed up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can feel that way.
Yeah. And I realized as I got older, no one escapes. Everyone has stuff.
Nobody gets out of life alive.
No, we all die. And that is one of the things, right? And I was thinking today about being on the sidelines and making sure you don't live your life on the sidelines.
Yeah. That's big.
Get in there, play your game, whatever that is for you.
Do what you want to do.
Yeah, I love your questions.
Yeah. I love your questions too. Thank you for them.
Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else I want to ask you today. I think that's it, though.
Yeah.
How can our listeners connect with you online?
Oh, yeah. So if you go to my Instagram, if you go to Live Life MD, you'll be able to connect there. And that's just spelled like it sounds, Live Life MD. And if you want to listen to my journey and some of the things that I blog about, thoughts that might be percolating in my mind, go to the livelifemd.com. So it's exactly the same, but with the word "the" in front.
For your blog?
The Live Life MD.
The Live Life MD. I love it. You guys, very interesting, huh? A lot of stuff we've learned today. It's been a joyful experience. Thank you so much, Ian, for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You guys, like and subscribe for the podcast. Get notifications. Hit the bell. We love sharing these stories with you and connecting with you, helping you on your journey to become the best person you can become and to process life with more joy. And you were born to be brave. I see greatness in you, and thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to our next interview.